Mr. Tim Vickery, voice, face of South American football with a slightly English lilt. Welcome.
Lovely to be here.
Thanks
Lovely
for
to
coming.
be. Yeah, my pleasure, and all the success to. Can I do the accent? United, United, United. That was that. Is that right?
Bob on. Perfect. See, fully into it now. Love it. So obviously it's the international break. So nice and light material. If you wouldn't mind, from a United perspective, taking us through the very recent World Cup qualifiers. I think in advance we knew that Brazil had qualified and Uruguay needed a point to qualify. Happy ending. They're both through. But from a United perspective, a little more detail. How did it go from Casemiro and Manuel Ugarte's perspectives, starting with Brazil?
Yeah, Casemiro has been brought back by Carlo Ancelotti. It's a marathon World Cup qualification campaign. There's 18 rounds in all. Casemiro, he played the first four back at the end of 23, and then he fell from favour. So he was out until Ancelotti came back.
Right.
And Ancelotti now called up his second squad. The first squad was 4 games in June, and he arrived. He was still coaching Real Madrid on the Saturday. Arrived in Brazil on the Sunday, announced his squad on the Monday. So it was all very, very quick, and a number of players he'd never really seen. So that squad was a little bit of a joint affair, him together with people inside the Brazilian FA. But there was one that he absolutely insisted on. I want Casemiro. And the reason for that is the last game of the previous coach was an absolute massacre. Brazil got beat 4-1 away to Argentina. They were lucky to get one. Argentina were unlucky to get only 4. The Brazil goal actually was a giveaway. It was a Premier League giveaway because mistake by Romero, who's caught in possession, brilliantly taken by Matheus Cunha. Matheus Cunha, who would get his chance now, but just got injured at the wrong time. That's a little bit unfortunate for him. But I think the move to United, even with United outside Champions League and so on, I think Matheus Cunha, if he can use that as a platform, he's right in there, that fight to play up front for Brazil in the World Cup. So Casemiro was brought straight back. And they played these 3 games now. They drew 0-0 away to Ecuador, beat Paraguay at home 1-0, and they beat Chile 3-0. So the thing that you'll notice there is 3 clean sheets, balancing out the side. And the roles, because it was the weakest area of the Brazil team, central midfield. Bruno Guimarães has had a terrible campaign, really. But you bring in Casemiro, and one of the things it does is improve Bruno, because you know what the roles are. You know, Casemiro is gonna cover the space, but he's also going to organise the first ball out from the back. So he's very important for Ancelotti. Now he picked up a booking against Chile, so he won't be going to Bolivia for Tuesday's game, which I suppose is good news.
Brilliant.
For United. There is a little bit of a problem here. And Ancelotti, he's got very, very few games to whip aside into shape for the World Cup. And as I said, the games in June were all really just running, arrive, pick the team, get out there. These 2 games, Chile are just dreadful. They're bottom of the table. And they brought a side with a stand-in coach who said, "Yeah, I've picked this coach thinking of 2027." So on Chile were nothing. It was a dead game, really. And they've got friendlies in October, almost certainly Japan and South Korea. Friendlies in November, probably African opposition, because the Europeans aren't free. The Europeans are qualifying for the World Cup. And then there's 2 friendlies in March, and that's it. So he's got very, very little and almost no top quality games to whip his side into shape. And the aspect of the side that does worry you a little bit is central midfield. I mean, the way that he wants to do it is with a front four. And Casemiro, as you'll know, I mean, he's not getting any younger, and mobility has never really been his game. So you do worry a little bit how Ancelotti is going to be able to balance this out. And Casemiro was saying after yesterday's game, you know, there are matches where we can't do this. We can't just have two in that zone. And when they went away to Ecuador, they played three there. So exactly how Ancelotti is going to balance out the side is a big challenge for him. But Casemiro is, I think, he's an extension of Ancelotti on the field. So even if he's not quite the player that he was a few years ago, that experience, the positional sense, and the quality for playing at the first ball out, I think are going to be very, very important for the new Brazil.
And how is he viewed by the public over there? Is he? I mean, I think it's between 75, 77 caps now. Is he a national treasure?
I wouldn't go that far because he's a little bit. It's weighing heavily on him.
Okay.
The fact that they haven't won a World Cup since 2002 weighs very, very heavy. So some would see him as part of that generation who've been to a couple of World Cups and not done it. And the way it works in Brazil, and Ancelotti knows this very well, success is winning the World Cup. Failure is everything else. You know, it is really, really, it's a hard school. It's a hard school. And Casemiro's he's going to get one last chance. He's going to get a third chance at doing it. So I'll defer judgment on whether he's a national treasure or not until he wins the World Cup or doesn't.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You touched on Cunha a moment ago as well. Obviously, very unfortunate timing for the injury and so on and so forth. But I've heard on numerous occasions that Ancelotti does like him, does rate him, and he seems to have stepped into. I mean, he's not scored yet, but he's stepped into life at United without really missing a beat. He's been quite impressive so far. Do you see him as a decent shout for the World Cup?
Oh yeah, although suddenly, and it's amazing to think that centre forward is a problem position for Brazil, but it has been for a while now. Yeah. Suddenly, there's a few options. Suddenly, Richarlison, Ancelotti loves him, and he's had a good pre-season for the first time in years. So he looks sharp. He's in the mix. He came on yesterday, played left wing, but he can play through the middle. João Pedro played yesterday. The move to Chelsea, especially during the Club World Cup, which was huge over here, did wonders for his profile. And in a way, the two of them are quite similar. I think, you know, they can play 9, they can play off the 9.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a direct competition between both of them. Igor Jesus, who's just joined Forest, is another interesting one. Hasn't got a lot of game time yet, but he will. And he's had some wonderful games with Ancelotti in the stadium. And there's one or two locals as well. So there's competition hotting up. This is going to be a really, really interesting battle. But with Cunha, I mean, Cunha, one of the things he suffers from in Brazil is that he's made his entire career abroad.
Right.
Now that matters because he's not really known to the public. There's always a call from the public for players that they know. They don't know him. Personally, I think he was unfortunate not to go to the last World Cup. I think they made a mistake there. He'd been a key part of the under-23 side that won the Olympic title. But his problem was he got a run, but he didn't score goals. And they were looking for more goals from the 9. So that's something that I think he still has to prove. And his career, he's bounced around from country to country, from club to club. He's fallen out with quite a few coaches. It's really important that he gets it right now. You know, that amid some of the turmoil at United, that he can have the strength of character to pull them out of that. So this is it's such an important season for him. It's almost a season that might define what he is, whether he is a top rank or whether he's one of those who's talented but flatters to deceive.
Okay. And shifting focus over to Uruguay, Manuel Ugarte. As well as reports are back here, he came on for the last half hour, looked lively. I think he initiated maybe Uruguay's second goal. how was his performance in general from what you saw? And again, probably the same question as with Casemiro is how was he viewed over in his homeland?
Oh, he's very important. Very important. More important, I think, with Uruguay than he is with United.
Right.
Surprises me a little bit because I like him a lot. Marcelo Bielsa, the coach, will probably tell you that in this cycle, while he's been in charge, Ugarte has been the most consistent player. Why is the last couple of games he's come off the bench? Why? Because they've been home bankers. And you know Bielsa, you know the formation, you know that 4-3-3. So these last couple of games, including last night against Peru, and Peru, just to put this in perspective, Peru have now concluded all of their 9 away games in the campaign. And in those 9 away games, they scored the grand total of no goals at all.
Oof,
Not a single away goal.
oof.
So obviously, the 3 are set up in the midfield. They're set up to attack.
Right.
So Bentancur is anchoring, and then you've got Valverde, and then you've got a number 10, Di Arrascaeta. Once they go 2 up and they're looking to protect the lead, off comes Di Arrascaeta, the 10. On comes Ugarte. He anchors, and Bentancur goes to one of the sides. So you've then got a 3. Bielsa has really got a decision to make in the World Cup in the harder games. Can he afford the 10, Di Arrascaeta? Can he afford that? It was a problem for Uruguay in the last World Cup. Can you fit him in or not? Is he a luxury player, especially if you're going to play with a striker and 2 wingers? Can you afford a 10 as well? So certainly in the tough games, Ugarte starts, and Ugarte is a little driving force in that central midfield. I've seen a lot of him on the way up, and he reminds me a little bit. I don't think he's quite that good, but he does remind me of Javier Mascherano
Right.
as a covering midfielder. So I'm a little bit surprised that he's not one of the first names on the team sheet at United. Maybe that has something to do with the system and the amount of players that he can fit in central midfield. But I think. Yeah, does it surprise you that he's not a regular starter?
I don't know. I do feel like, I mean, I feel like there's definitely more to come from him. I feel like maybe it's a lazy stereotype, but you think when you sign a Uruguayan central defensive midfielder, you're gonna get this sort of omnipresent Tasmanian devil type figure that's just snapping at heels and just horrible to play against. But
Mm-hmm.
he's horrible, but he's your little monster, and you enjoy having him in your team. You revel in that because that's the type. Again, like I say, it's probably a lazy old trope, but that's maybe the expectation that we had. And yeah, it's been a little bit. I do feel there's more to come from him, and I don't know what's going to unlock that or what needs to click for it to work. I mean, obviously, maybe the size of the midfield job is too grand. You know, just being the legs for almost 2 players.
Yeah, yeah, perhaps. And I would certainly love to have him in my squad, and Bielsa loves having him in his squad. So even if in these easier games at home he's not getting a start, he is absolutely vital to the cause. And as I said, Bielsa has said, he's been the most consistent player I've had since I've been in charge of Uruguay.
And he has quite high demands of his central midfielders, doesn't he?
He does, yes.
So there you go. So I mean, to put you back on the spot, would you expect if he had, all things being equal, Ugarte had a sustained run as a 6 at United, would you expect to see more come from him?
Oh, without doubt, yes. Yes, and I always thought it was a player well worth buying, who would fix a hole that was obviously leaking there in United. I'm surprised it hasn't worked particularly well so far, but then not a great deal has it? So maybe we can agree. There's more to come.
Brilliant. Tim, thanks so much for your time, gentlemen.